2025 and I'm feeling alive. So alive. So alive. Welcome back to a whole other year. This is a lot to take in. A lot happened in 2024. And I didn't really go over too much. It was pretty busy. But I'm going to go over a little bit of some of the highlights of things that did happen in 2024 that were somewhat important. So first thing, I don't know if you heard, there was something called sepia or bride. Anyway, there was a whole thing about this bride who hired a photographer for her style. The photographer, sent her all the photos. Everything was all hunky-dory. She loved everything. And then a few months later decided that she hated everything. Decided to ask for the raws from the photographer. Photographer said no. She said yes. She said no. She said yes. And they got the raws, and then she wasn't happy, and then she took it to TikTok, made a whole big video about it, and now she's divorced. So fun. So let that be a lesson to you guys. Do not put stuff on TikTok if you're not happy with your vendors, because the vendors will fight back. Then we have another bride and groom that decided that they were going to go on TikTok as well, and also put stuff on there about their photographer that they also weren't happy about. They cherry-picked some of the photos that they didn't like, and they showed it to the world and said, look how bad my photographer was. And they tagged her in the post so everybody would know exactly who the photographer was. Then people being people went online, found the full wedding gallery, and showed it to the world. And you know what? The photos were actually beautiful. So again, another thing to do is, maybe don't disparage your vendors. Now, let's talk about the big elephant in the room. And no, I'm not talking about me. I already know about that. Let's talk about AI. Now, AI is a really cool thing. Now, if you're somebody like me, you can just play around with it, create cool little new concepts, and then use some ideas for when you're going to go do like your wedding photos. It gives you a little bit of inspiration. But a lot of people are starting to use AI in nefarious ways. How, you might ask? Well, AI is getting to the point where you can't really distinguish between reality and fake. So a lot of people are creating wedding images and using it in their portfolios. So a bride will look on their website and be like, oh wow, this photographer did all these amazing looking photos. Everything looks so great. And the average person is not going to be able to tell an AI photo from a regular photo. So they go see all these amazing photos, and then they end up hiring that photographer. And guess what? That photographer has no idea what they're doing. So when they go to take their photos, it's completely different than what they're seeing on their website. Because now we're seeing a whole lot of posts online about couples being very unhappy with the quality of work they're getting. And that's one of the biggest reasons why. And the more AI gets more and more experienced, as you want to say it, it's going to get harder and harder to distinguish what's real and what's not. Already, and it's only like 5 years in from when AI started, it's getting pretty scary out there. Not to say that it's not going to help people in the long run, but we got to find different ways to distinguish real from fake. So let's talk a little bit about the trends that hit 2024, because there were quite a few of them. Some I loved and some I wasn't too fond of. Like blurry photos. Yes, you heard that correctly. Blurry photos was a big thing. Now, if you're doing like motion blur, trying to convey somebody running through something or giving the emotion of action in a photo, cool. I'm all for it. I've done it before. Looks great. But when you're trying to make photos blurry just to be blurry, yeah, I'm not for that one there. I mean, I own a $10,000 piece of camera gear, and if I can get you a blurry photo with that, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. Because honestly, that's making photographers who don't know what they're doing look like they know what they're doing. And also not quite for that. So blurry photos is one of them. Then it was the direct flash look, which essentially was brought on by people, like movie stars and things like that, who liked that old school vintage style where it was like the direct flash look hitting you in the face and gave you that old school type of feel. I myself wasn't for it, but I was okay with it. And lastly, there was something called the dirty end of the night photo, which is essentially was like a lay flat photo of the bride and groom sweetheart table with all the stuff that was on it. It's just a kind of like ending shot, and that was cool. I actually did that a few times. You can actually see that right here. So that was kind of like a few of the trends that were hitting 2024. The trends that are hitting in 2025, not too different, but we'll touch base on that in another video. And that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for joining us. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.